Welcome to podcast 3 for Alan Lewis Raw Conversation. And I'm with Lisa today, who's joined us, who's a person who I'm known for a little while, but my wife, who is a wonderful hairdresser, who Lisa, I think, has known her since her children have been young and our children have been young. So I thought, well, I've got to get Lisa in and talk to her about her life. How are you today, Lisa?
Really good. Thanks, Alan. Yeah, I've known your family for over 35 years. It's getting on to almost 40 years now. Gosh.
It's crazy. Time goes so fast, doesn't it?
Mm,
Now, Lisa, what I did is last time I started the podcast with Patrick, you were just talking before we started the
yes.
podcast, and you found it very interesting. And what I did with him, and I got a lot of reviews about it, saying they liked what I first did. I have three pieces of paper in front of me, and they're all got separate questions in. And I don't know which one you're gonna pick up, obviously. And I got the top one, the middle one, or the bottom one. And I thought, well, let's start off the podcast with any question what's possible, and I'm gonna let you pick it.
How about we go middle one?
Middle one, okay. And to get over to you,
Okay.
I'll let you read it and see what it says.
Okay. If you get a free billboard, what would it say? Oh, gosh. Okay. No, I was about to say that's a really hard one. Actually, that's a really easy one. And I would say, be kind today.
What a great message. And amazing you said that because we're going to be kind to you in a way.
Thanks, God.
You are amazingly, I could show you all three of the other two. They're all different questions. And what I'm going to do, well, I'm going to advertise my wife's business here a little bit. Of course, it's hair, pamper, and massage, and she's a wonderful hairdresser. So it's one of the first times I'm advertising something on. And
Yes.
because you're my hat trick, the third podcast in the row, I have a present for you.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, we do. I'm going to hand this over. There you go. You can have a look in there and see what's in there.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, you are a gem. Okay, favorites. Boy, am I going to be popular at home. Chocolates!
Chocolates.
And and oh, intense treatment, hydration intense treatment for my hair. Oh, thank you.
There you go. Because you and my hat trick. So
My your
the
hat
hat trick.
trick.
So we thought, well,
Oh,
we have to start it off with a little gift for you to remember and go from there.
I just wonder if the chocolate's going to survive the trip home. It
Well,
might just disappear
well, it might
before
even
I have to share it with the family.
It might even, not, last the podcast, you might even start, snacking on it through it just to give you the energy.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. Thank you.
that's okay. So, like I always do, we're gonna see if we can reverse and go back to the start of you being a child. And one question I did ask Patrick last time, and I thought was he thought was a good question, is can you remember the street, if you want, that you grew up on? And
Mhm.
then tell us a little bit about your mum, your dad, and
Yeah.
brothers, sisters.
Okay. Well, my first house that I remember, because Mum and Dad had a little dodgy flat. They said that was full of fleas when I
Okay.
was first born, and they got out of there very quickly. But our
Okay.
first home was in Scott Road, Hurston,
Okay.
and that was really close to the Royal Brisbane Hospital because Dad was a young surgeon and had to be really close, wanted to be really close to the hospital because he was always on call. So that was back in the early 60s. And we were at Scott Road, Hurston, for quite a while. But my parents just loved um, buy an old dodgy house, do it up, renovate it, sell, buy, renovate, sell, buy, renovate, sell. And sort of that's how they I suppose built their family future and legacy, and they just upgrade and do things. And my mum had such a great sense of style. Mum was a model when Dad met her. They both met in London. Um, she started off doing nursing, but she got really sick during nursing with a kidney disorder and could only do 2 years. And then she was sick for about 6 months and didn't quite get back into the into the nursing. So she went and she got a job with Australia House in London, and my dad was doing further study. So he was doing his surgical study in London, and they met at a wild party, as Australians do in London
Yeah.
back in the 60s. So they met there and fell in love, and they came back to Australia to marry and settle down when Dad had finished his sort of stint over in London, and he was working at the Royal. So we were in Scott Road, Hurston,
Okay.
and we were 2 years, I think, until I was about grade two, grade two, going on grade three. Yeah, and then as I said, buy, renovate, sell, buy, renovate, sell. So we moved around a lot in Brisbane and a couple of years overseas because he was doing research and stuff over in America a couple of years. But we moved around in Brisbane, very, very close all the time to the Royal Brisbane Hospital.
Okay. And when you were you born when he was in England or here?
Here,
Here. Okay.
yes,
And
yes.
so were you born in that first street? Did you say, or were you
Well,
somewhere else?
I think even their first little flat, the
Yep.
dodgy flat,
Okay.
was in Hurston, and I think it was down the road from the house that they eventually bought. The house they bought, I remember we were there for a while because it took a lot of time to do that one up, and they were only just starting out in life and didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Um, the stumps were all rotting, and
Yep.
it was on a lean. So if you put like an orange or something on the kitchen table, it would roll off.
Oh God.
It was just we used to have games
Yeah.
and see whose piece of fruit or something would roll off the table faster. So
Mm.
it was all Dad would just have to try and he did all the work himself. He would just try and do the house up over the years himself because he was a good carpenter as a surgeon,
Okay.
and he was a good carpenter in house renovation as well.
Okay, so you actually could do renovations,
Oh,
saying because sometimes they can use a scalpel good, but if you put a drill or screwdriver in front of them,
oh,
the picture would fall down.
no, Dad was always really good, and he believed in teaching all of us, whether they
Okay.
were, whether because I was the eldest of six. I had four brothers, one sister, and it wasn't just the boys in the family that were taught how to do, carpentry stuff. I used to work with him because I was a little bit older than the siblings. So, between me and the youngest is 14 years. So, I was always called on to sort of help out first because the others were a bit young. So, doing things like, you know, building a new window frame and the joinery and fixing up kitchen cabinetry and painting the walls and doing all that sort of thing, just fixing stuff in the bathroom and kitchen and things like that. He was always one to teach you how to do things yourself because mum was always good at that as well.
When you're saying that, I can hear the rawness in your voice. It. I feel like even that brings some happy memories back and thoughts, and I feel like a
Oh,
little
yeah.
visions of you can vision yourself in a room or with your dad and doing it. I feel that vision. You can still see that, and it brings some warmthness and smile to your faces just thinking
Yeah.
of them days.
Oh, we always worked well together, Dad and I. Was always like to be a bit of, Dad's shadow. And I loved hearing his stories about like his surgery and sort of the successes and things like that. But then he used to come home and talk about families that had been in car accidents and things, kids that had, have had horrific injuries and things. And, it just like to sort of just sit and appreciate that we were all sort of healthy and at home, but because some situations are really, really hard. Doesn't matter how good you are. Some people are just, they're too injured in a car
Yeah.
accident to help
Yeah.
too much. And those were really hard nights. But I was always very admiring of what my dad did, and I think that's why I decided to go into nursing. I just wanted to be a surgical nurse, and that's why I went into it, and later on worked with my dad, which I loved.
That, coming home as a doctor, nurse, it's like we call it first responders these days,
Mm,
and you really do need to know how to kind of, block one part, but these days, now teaching them, you don't fully block it, you have to understand it, and in them days, it was probably the days where you just blocked it and you didn't show it, and as you said, you saw awful things, car accidents, and your dad would have, and early on
mm,
in your nursing, you saw patients pass away,
yeah,
children, and things like that.
yeah.
How did you? I know your dad would have been a different situation, but looking at you in them early years when you were nursing, how did you look at that and handle that coming home and uh, at that stage? And you would have been quite
Yeah.
young.
I think the benefit for me was my mum had obviously so many years helping my dad um, sort of come home and calm down and just sort of relieve him of the oh, you know I don't know how to describe it. It's not sort of a pain or suffering or anything. It's just this um, you just sort of
Adapt.
yeah, you feel this like dad would feel this overwhelming sort of sense of sorrow, I suppose. He'd just, mum used to know if he just came home and he was just really, really quiet and all he wanted to do was sit on the couch and cuddle his kids,
Mm,
she know, oh, it's been a bit of a rotten day
mm.
at the hospital. It's been a tough one. And so she kind of knew that already for me when I was sort of training. I was a MARTA trained nurse. And so, coming home from the hospital and stuff, my first week on the wards,
Mm.
I was in male medical, and my very first week, three of my patients passed away. And I was just like, I mean, you're 17, you're straight out of school, you're 17 going on 18. And this was my first experience with death and dying. And they were just, you know, really sweet people
Mm.
that one minute you're having a sort of bit of a conversation with, and then, the next minute you're trying to resuscitate them, and they passed away. And Mum was just sort of going, "Wow, you've had a tough first week on the wards. That's what nursing's all about."
And with that, I suppose, what year would have that been around?
Um, that was 82.
And suppose a lot of the senior nurses would have came up from a lot of that hard time where,
Oh yeah.
not to say anything. So it's not like you could have went to a senior nurse or one of the senior nurses may have came and said, "Listen, it's okay. Let's talk about it." It would have been a time, well, it's happened. We've got to move on to the next patient, and this is how we handle it.
There
And
was a little bit of both. I felt very fortunate where I trained. Really, I just had really good experiences with. They were very nurturing. I felt for me when I was there, and they they would they sort of knew give a little give support for a little bit, but hey, the shift goes on.
yeah,
let's get back to it
Okay.
and come and talk to me again later if you need to. But let you know we've got other people here that we've really got to look after, and you've got a whole shift you've got to get through, and and we can talk about it a bit later as
Later.
well. But they were they were really good, and they obviously senior nurses they'd seen a lot, and they had seen even more than us because I mean every it's not even every decade, it's like every year the treatment for certain conditions just improves and improves and improves. So the nurses who were really senior when I was at the hospital had been through years where um, there wasn't um, effective treatment, and a lot of the nursing was about comfort and treating symptoms and things like that for people for however long they could survive with particular illness or disease. Um, and they had sort of had situations where you knew that someone what they had was going to be terminal, and that's not the case anymore these days. It's
Yeah.
people have longer lives with all sorts of ailments and diseases.
And I suppose in them days, the operations were longer as well. The recovery. You go in for scope operations these days, where you would probably go for appendix out, and you would spend 2 weeks in hospital. To now, where they're basically having you out that afternoon or the next morning. So, like you said, that the change in that, what has happened even
Mm.
from now to then, before they were nurses to when they were, that medical kind of change happens quite fast.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's just and the equipment people use. I mean, I talk to my daughter's friends who do nursing, and I'll talk to them about how we had to calculate how many drops per minute to give a certain dose
Yep.
of medication through an intravenous drip. And literally had to use our little watch that was attached to our uniform. You use your little watch to time and count the drips over 15 to 30 seconds to make sure you're giving the right dose. And you had to manually sort of do this and keep checking. And they look at you in horror. They just sort of like, you're just basically punching some
Numbers.
instructions
Yeah.
into a machine now, and it just drip feeds medication through an intravenous line
Yeah.
like that.
And
And
you can even take that kind of stuff home now. Like people can be on a drip or a pain drip, and yeah, they
yeah,
can go home. What that wouldn't
yes,
never been thought about back then.
exactly, exactly.
Jumping back, you said you had some brothers and sisters. A little bit
Yes,
about them and their well, not ages, but
look,
the
there's boys,
yeah,
one sister. My sister is so the boys are all interspersed.
yeah,
I'm the eldest, and the next one is he's a boy. He's 3 years younger than me. Then it sort of goes down. My sister, I desperately wanted a sister. My
okay,
sister was born when I was 12.
okay,
I was over the moon.
okay,
And then there was another brother born after her, and so a couple of years later, and he's the youngest. So we span from me to my youngest brother, 14 years younger, and so because there was another baby came along from the time my sister was 2, she shared the bedroom with me because we only had a small house and we all had to share. And so from the time my sister was 2, she shared my bedroom with me. And, I loved it. It was great. And
that's excellent.
yeah, and I mean, even when I just remember that was actually another really good help from me too, is coming home from sort of my nursing training and having my little primary school age sister, because we had trundle beds. I'd pull out the bed, and that was very comforting in that um, you'd come home, you'd have someone really excited to see you, and then she'd want to just chat and tell you all about her day at school, and or you'd be reading her stories at night to bed and all that sort of thing, and that actually helped me sort of, wind down after a shift at work and all that sort of thing. So always, we had a small house. We never had enough bedrooms for everybody. Everyone was sort of like, my brothers were all, in sleep outs. You know how you
Yeah, of
close in a room
course. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah.
they're all out there with their beds, and it's separated by a wardrobe. The wardrobe becomes the wall separating
Yeah.
you, and all that sort of stuff. But big big families and one bathroom.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants
The toilet at the same time.
yeah, exactly. And I sort of think, gosh, it wasn't until I was I was in my 20s before we got a second bathroom
Yeah.
in one of the houses that mum and dad had. So, you always got sort of brother outside if you're having a shower too long or a soak in the bath, and you got a brother outside knocking on the door going, hurry
Yeah.
up.
And in them days, it was like the hot water didn't even last that long anyhow. So, if you
No.
and I remember even the old days, some of the times the hot water wouldn't turn on to like 6 o'clock at night time with some of the things, so but aren't they days? We talk about the old days, Australia, and anywhere in the world. But when we go back to the old days of Australia, you can, like you said, small houses, vibro houses. Used to have
Yeah,
the burners at the back of the yard to burn rubbish and that.
yeah,
But they were days to remember. We think
but,
that, we go, oh, they were
mm,
difficult, all different, but
yeah,
they were the days,
they
they
were.
were special days that we did feel as young, free, and, we weren't scared of anything happening to us. We just wanted to be children.
You left the house in the morning, and say if it was a weekend, you'd just leave the house in the morning as you know primary school kids,
Mm,
and off you'd go, and you knew everyone in the street, you
yeah,
knew all the houses and families in the street, and you'd go off to the park. Everyone would be doing something around the place. um, you'd have a creek down the way, and you'd be chasing tadpoles and doing all sorts of things. um, and you'd come back, when you got hungry.
exactly.
Um, Mum would just be doing her stuff at home during the day, usually in our household because there were so many kids. Mum would be looking after the young ones at home, and we'd all be off doing stuff. Um, Even just walking home from the bus stop, because I'd catch the bus on my own. Mum never drove.
Okay.
I'd catch the bus on my own from first day of school, grade one. Mum would just sort of go with me on the bus to teach me the first couple of times, and then I had to do it on my own. And because the school I went to was a little ways away, and you'd take ages coming home of an afternoon because you'd stop and chat at fence lines with sort of, the
Neighbors.
ladies,
Yeah.
the lovely ladies who were pensioners and stuff. They'd always, as of about 3 or 3:15, they knew when you'd be walking back, and we'd all walk back in a bit of a pack, and you got biscuits all along the way,
Okay.
at the fences of of so many
Mm,
different houses. You'd be admiring their flowers,
yeah.
smelling their roses,
Yeah.
chatting to them about your day, showing them your art,
Yeah.
and grabbing a great homemade Vicky on the way. And everyone knew everyone, and you'd just wander and take forever to get home.
Mm.
And then, yeah, and just keep playing outside. It
Uh,
was great. I
uh,
feel very fortunate.
as I said uh, when you were speaking about your dad, and I heard the truth in your voice. Then I just heard it then. It's amazing their memories, what come
Yeah,
back to you, and I can see
yeah.
how special their memories are as a child.
Mm.
and it's, all children go through different, uh, life, course and
Yeah.
different situations, and just to hear that you had that moment in your life, it's great just to think their memories and pictures and thoughts and smells and
Mm.
that are there for someone,
Mhm.
and something to always look back and, think, my childhood was something special.
Yeah, it was, and that doesn't mean, like,
You didn't have hard times, no, of course
it
not.
doesn't mean you don't have hard times, and there were,
Of course.
but that still doesn't mean, so the hard times don't have to be times of trauma.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
I don't
yep.
know if that makes
No,
sense. Like,
no,
like okay, my mum and dad absolutely adored each
yep,
other. Mum passed away 10 years ago,
okay,
and dad, I don't think I've heard dad do a belly laugh since.
okay,
Okay, he's mourning her every minute of every day.
okay,
Um, so mum and dad absolutely adored each other. Dad was pretty much besotted with mum the moment he saw her. So back in London, and so it was the latter three young ones when they were born. Mum had really difficult pregnancies. Anyway, it turns out, and it wasn't known very much at the time, but um, after investigations and things, it turns out Mum had massive stroke in childbirth with one of the younger ones, because it has had to have been baby number four or baby number five, because that's when she really changed, and they were particularly difficult childbirths, and she probably should have, in retrospect, had cesareans, but it wasn't really sort of done, and she had massive stroke, but her stroke was in the frontal lobe of her brain, so she had brain injury, acquired schizophrenia, and that was tough.
mm,
It was tough having someone come home after having a baby and they were dead.
yes,
So it was misdiagnosed as postnatal depression. It was misdiagnosed as all sorts of things for many years. Um, and you just your community becomes very important. Mum and dad's community became a little bit smaller. They had so many friends. They had such a vibrant social life that when mum when mum came home from hospital after having the baby and was struggling and was having these schizophrenic episodes and things, the extended community became smaller, but it became more important. It became more powerful. It became more loving, and so the the close family and also the really close friends all just stuck together and sort of looked after everybody. They
yep,
looked after all of us, and you know, you're I was about I was 11 when
okay.
baby number four came along. So I was 11, and
Oh,
then,
you're
as I
really
said
young.
before, I was 12 when baby number five came along, and they were like my little
Mm,
baby because mum was quite ill,
okay.
and so you know, but I look back on that time and I do see that we just became tighter, if that
As a
makes sense. And
as a family community,
yeah,
kind of, yep. And for someone that young, one, it takes a lot of, I suppose, growing up fast in some ways, and it's not like it can just get switched on. You get, taught how to handle this, and getting a bit raw. But what was your emotions behind the scenes for people out there who are going through this at the moment, or another young child whose mum or is going through this, so they know themselves that they're not feeling how they're feeling, isn't bad. It's not wrong. Other people do feel like it, so they can feel like there's not something wrong with them. What was some of your raw feelings of sadness, feelings? Was there anger? Was there
Oh,
things?
there's all of that.
Yep.
You have sort of it's a real cocktail of emotions. You do sort of feel like, um, because I mean, Dad was still working. Dad still had to do on call. Dad still had to do stuff. And I don't want people to think Mum was incapable of doing anything, but
No.
Mum, Mum had episodes. So there were periods of time where, she wouldn't be Mum. She
Mm.
would be mm, someone else, and you knew you had to step up during those times. Then we sort of felt like, okay, oh, okay, Mum's coming good, and it's coming back. She's coming back. All depended on, change in medication, treatment, all that sort of thing. So there was quite a journey because they didn't really have an idea at all on what was sort of happening with Mum, and so the treatment was sort of changing all the time, but it was improving all the time as well, and so things got a little bit better as time.
Mm.
But that wasn't until I was sort of in my 20s.
Okay.
But um, you just I think the thing for me was school became sort of like an escape. School was my bit of a haven. I loved going to school. I loved my school. A lot of people don't say that, but I did. Going to school was where I could sort of just be. It was all about me,
Okay. That
and that's those school hours. It was all about me. It was all about hanging out with my friends, talking about the latest music star, and all that sort of thing. It was my escape,
yeah.
and then I had a very small, close, wonderful set of girlfriends, and just a handful who knew the whole story at home, and I that I felt I could trust with the whole story, and they were fabulous.
Mm.
They were. They
Yeah.
were just wonderful, and they were never judgy. They could just um, come come to the house to visit, and watch our favorite TV shows and things like that. They'd come to the house and visit me, um, and not be sort of judgmental. If Mum
Yeah.
wasn't quite what they expected.
Yep.
Um, and that was the same with my nursing friends as well,
Mm.
because Mum was still sort of quite unstable when I was doing my nursing as well. So it's just sort of trying to sort of get, we were all that sort of was a bit of a disruption to the family, um, in that just me and my shifts, trying to work things because you always wanted to make sure that there was someone responsible at home, and you know I love my brothers, but
Yep.
they're not necessarily what I would call responsible.
No. No.
And you got to sort of,
No, no, no. I think I
they're
think
good. They were really good,
and
but
I think most yeah.
they weren't necessarily wanting, like the older brothers were not necessarily wanting to constantly look after
Yeah.
toddlers,
No.
and small kids.
No.
So that
I
was,
think
yeah,
most wives would say that about their husbands, wouldn't they? So I don't think it has to be your brothers. I think most wives would say, "Yeah, my husband's like a child at times anyhow." So like, as getting to your that bunch of good friends, that's a
yeah,
question I normally ask.
and they're still my stick.
That's awesome. Isn't it a bit funny? I was speaking to someone the other day, and we'll get to your children, but isn't it funny? Like, in my, even in my days, you had a best friend, one or two, but I ask some kids these days. My boys are older, as you know them, but you ask them who was their best friend at school, and they go, "Oh, I got this person, got this." but I don't see many kids having best friends anymore, like one best friend. It's like a group thing and that, and there's nothing wrong with it. But in them days, your best friend was your best friend forever. They went primary school, high school. You had other friends, but you always had a best friend.
Mm,
And did
yeah.
you have one who was a best friend, or just that group of girls was your girls? Is there one there who I suppose you don't want to say it
So
if they're listening?
look, there's in my school friends and my nursing friends, I would say yes, there would be one during my school years and one during my nursing years that were sort of, students with me at that time. And they are still,
Close.
they are, the ones that I can actually, the people that you just sort of go and you can just blurb everything to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and I do have one at the moment who is sort of like, um, uh, has become in such a very, very short time a real close friend that I can talk about anything to as well,
Mm.
sort of this later in life stage.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate. I've got three that I would count that I talk to all the time.
And
But it's these different stages in my life that sort of I've found them. The ones
yeah.
you just trust with anything and everything.
And I think that's so great. We talk these days about, as you said, about your mother's issues, but
Mm.
there's so many different mental health issues out there at the moment. But I think that's the number one. If you look at some people, just having it, you don't have to have five or six or 10, just one person that will not judge you, who
Mm.
doesn't who's just there. They got no judgment. They just love you for who you are. I think that's the most important thing, and I think if whatever issue you have and, whatever issues you think you have in your head or you're thinking of, if you've got that person you can just dial and trust in, I think that can save so many people.
Absolutely, absolutely. That that person, and they're not there to solve your problems. They're not there to, you know, give you advice. Though that when they do, it's always really good advice because they know you so well.
Yeah,
They're just going to be a ready, an always ready ear to listen.
yeah, yeah,
So
and
sometimes just unburdening yourself and sharing something that's upsetting you, or sharing something that's really exciting you,
yeah,
something that's making you so happy, or you feel like you've had a bit of a step forward, or that sort of thing, um, or even someone when you're doing something that creates a lot of anxiety, you're really nervous about, knowing they're there, they've got your back, they're there by your side, gives you a bit sort of courage.
yep, and just that support, and I think
Yeah.
I think, and I'll admit I get it wrong, and I think other husbands and wives, but I think I say even husbands get it wrong more because they think they have to solve it all the time. And I get it wrong with my wife at times. And she tells me, and I'm truthful about it, where she might tell me something. And I think the guy thinks they have to solve the problem, they think they have to fix the problem. And that's not the issue that my wife Karen's looking at. And she says, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. I just need you to hear me out. And
Yeah.
it's easy when I sit down here and talk to someone like this because it feels different. But I think you click into that husband role where you think you got to solve the issue. There's a
Yeah,
robber in
let
the
me
house.
help you
Yeah,
work this out.
where
But you don't need,
that's not what's
I don't
doing.
want
And you're probably been through it too, where I don't want you to fix it. I don't need you to go and fix it or talk to this person because they said
yeah,
that to me. Just listen to me, hear
yeah,
me out, say I understand, and
and
that's gonna be the best thing. And I think, I gotta come better at it, and at times you can do it, but it's easier said than done.
yeah, you just want someone to vent to. My hubby says he calls it releasing the FAFA valve.
Okay.
You just want to release the FAFA valve and
Yeah.
get rid of the steam.
Get rid of
You
it.
know, just get rid of the steam, and it does. It helps if you can just. It's like, I suppose, having someone you can vent to is similar to screaming into a pillow.
Yes.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
yeah,
No, I get that.
yeah.
Okay, so moving on. So nursing, how long did you stay in nursing for? How
I'm
long?
still a nurse,
Okay, still nurse,
so
but
I'm still a nurse.
yep,
I'm just
part time.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and you're now nursing where?
Oh well, I joined my dad in his surgical practice years ago,
Yep.
and so I used to scrub in with him, and I used to sort of help him in operations. I love surgical nursing. I love operations. I love watching operations.
Is that where you specialized in surgery in the end? Is that where you
That's
specialized?
where I wanted.
Okay, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. And just like working together.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
So, and I think it sort of actually, it actually sort of is quite relaxing in that you don't have to sort of put on a front.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, you say, "Oh, can you pass me that and pass me this?" And you don't have to be as sort of careful and
No, and you're in
polite.
sync. You're like
You're
where
in
that
sync,
you're
and
in
you just
sync, aren't you? You kind of
give me
know.
that thing,
Yeah,
grab me that thing. Yeah,
yeah,
yes, yes, I know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, and so he hasn't quite retired yet, so I'm just keeping my nursing registration, and just I'm going to see Dad through to retirement,
Okay, that's good.
and just just make sure he's looked after,
Okay.
um, and doesn't work too hard.
Yeah.
Just keeps his hand in it, but he'll be stopping that soon. The surgery side, he'll just keep doing teaching and reporting and all that sort of stuff.
Is he one of the men who can't ever stop? He's not going to be able to stop. Really, he just
It's just that he's still so good, so
yeah,
it's hard to stop doing something when you're still good at it. But that's when you actually have. You
yeah,
don't want someone to tap you on the shoulder,
yeah,
so it's got to be on his own terms. But he's just still really good.
yeah,
He just gets sore feet. He gets sore feet and sore knees these days, and
yeah,
he says, standing at the operating theatre for hours
yeah.
does sort of hurt your knees and feet after a while. You just want to get the circulation going. Um, but yeah, and he'll sort of we're just trying to sort of work out what hobbies and things to get him into. Thought, well, he's such a great carpenter. He should start making furniture and stuff.
Okay.
But and we'll get him set up with that sort
He
of thing.
get the next thing,
Yeah, we're
and I
keeping his brain going.
and it's great it is still going because these days it's so hard. You to get into appointments. You need something done. It takes a long time to get here
Yeah.
with specialists and that, and just to have enough specialists is what we actually need. Um, Going just a little bit about your mum's loss and that must have been hard on the family, and you said it was hard. Of course, it was hard on everyone.
Mm.
How's it been with trying to work with your dad? What are you just there to kind of support him, let him know it's okay to grief like this?
Oh
How do
yeah,
you do it?
yeah, yeah. It's my sister gets a little upset at how upset Dad still gets. Dad still cries and misses Mum, and has a lock of her hair right next to him when he's sleeping, and all this sort of thing, and just the grief can be still after all this time. It just catches him, and he feels so lonely. And my sister gets quite distressed, and I go, "Oh, look, you've got to let him,
Mm,
like, because Mum's up there, and she's looking down, going, yes, you just keep missing me, sweetheart. It's a testament to their great love.
mhm,
I said, they were such a pair, inseparable through thick and thin.
mm.
Good times and bad. All the highs and lows and the roller coaster ride of their lives together. And I said, I mean, uh, Mum would be quite miffed if Dad got over her.
Yeah.
Got over the loss. He'll never get over the loss.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I got someone who is in our family. I won't say who it is and that. And I was talking to him once, and I said to him, I said, listen, if you have to, you know, if you can, if someone can't get out of bed or move, that's a different thing. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But if you have to cry every day, if you have to look at a picture every day and tell someone you love them and they're gone, and you're still grieving them, be you. There's
Yeah.
no direct book what tells you
Mm-mm.
by 1 year you're feeling like this, by 2 years you're over it by this much, by 10 years you're not thinking about it. There's no book. Be you, grief
Mm.
in the way you have to, and you got that right. There's a connection and love that no one ever knows that how you two were, and just be you, and
Mm.
just allow that person to feel that feeling.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I think it's quite
There's no
simple.
there's no time limit.
No, and there's no book. There's no how it's got
Mm.
to be done or how it should be.
Ex-
So we'll move through we'll talk about your children and husband and that soon. So and you're on a few boards. I'm going to start talking about that a little
Yeah.
bit, and you've done a lot of work, and then we'll get to who your family and who you're married to. Um, Tell me about the boards you're on, and
Mm.
what made you think of, go to them boards, and what
Mm-hmm.
working on them means to you.
Well, I suppose from a career point of view,
Yeah.
more recently, within the last 10 years, so I said before I was a part-time nurse, and I got my real estate license, but that wasn't um, to, be someone who's out there um, helping people buy and sell properties. I don't do that.
Mm.
I do it because I work with my husband in commercial property, and I help look after tenants. So I help, and it's funny, these two sort of facets of my working life is like I'm looking after patients a couple of days, and I'm looking after tenants the other couple of days.
Yeah, so
It's not so different.
no.
Um, and then my my outside of paid work um, and career, well, I um, I really enjoy being involved in organisations that are all out there, the charities and organisations that help people facing challenges in our communities,
Yes.
particularly the homeless situation, homelessness, domestic violence,
Yes.
children and families in need, particularly
That's
young people
wonderful.
in need. And that's sort of been a progression. It started with my mum. One of the houses, you know how they used to buy, renovate, sell, particular sort of there were a couple of houses that they did this to in Spring Hill, and they were really close to that area of Albert Park, which has now sort of been absorbed into Roma Street Parklands. And so this is back in, like the 80s, you know, late 70s and into the early 80s. And it was a park that there were a lot of homeless people. Now, mum and dad were, they had 6 kids, they were making ends meet, but mum always found a way to feed people and to give clothes to people, to wash their clothes. Our house during the day would be a drop-in centre.
Okay, that's
So
excellent.
mum would make mum was of Irish type descent, born and bred in Australia, but they love she loves stews and crock pots of
Okay.
stuff, and she would just make huge amounts of different types of Irish stews and things like that, and loads of meat and veg, and people knew that they could just knock on the door, come in, get a feed. I mean, you'd come home from school and you'd just find clothes missing, and you knew someone in the pub. And
That's
there was
wonderful.
my brothers, like all my brothers are way bigger than me. One of my brothers, who's the biggest, like he's really tall and he was a football player and all this sort of thing. His clothes, because it was almost like they'd fit anyone and everyone,
Yeah.
his clothes were always raided the most.
Okay.
And he'd like, where's Where's my, navy tracksuit, Mom? You know, who's wearing this? Who's wearing that? You got to a stage where you just sort of have a little chest,
Chuckle.
yeah, and a little chest you'd lock and just go, Mum, those things are not to be given away.
Okay.
And Dad just, Mum just never, Mum never talked to Dad about it.
Yeah.
Dad never talked to Mum about it. But the groceries would always just fly out the door so fast. And he knew more people than our immediate family were eating the food that he was paying for and bringing home from Rockley Market and all this sort of thing. There was always fruit and veg walking out the door. And so that was I suppose that was the example that was set from a very early age.
Okay.
No matter how much or how little you had, you shared,
Yeah.
and or you helped in some way. So then, later in life, when opportunities arose to sort of try and um, help organisations and charities and foundations, why would you not?
Yep.
I mean, there's too many people. There's the constant new sort of turnover of people experiencing so many challenges.
And hardships and
Yeah.
everything like that. Now, one of the big charities you're on, which, uh,
Oh, well, um, it's not big in
yeah,
number,
no, no,
but it's big in heart.
heart. Yes, that's what I mean. Yep.
President of Zonta Club of Brisbane City Heart. Zonta is a global organisation, and myself and a few pals and colleagues, we set up a Zonta Club, a new Zonta Club in about 2015,
Yep.
2016, and it's Zonta Brisbane City Heart, and we also set up a foundation. So we have our own foundation, which is quite unusual for Zonta clubs,
Yep.
and our focus is women and girls, both here in our community, but also um, a certain amount of our endeavours help those overseas as well
Yep.
in more third world countries, developing countries. Women and girls experiencing significant challenges of homelessness, abuse, neglect, and that's a joy.
Yeah.
I have an amazing group of people in my club. We love doing what we're doing. It's quite a focus, and now my girls, our girls, we've got two daughters.
Yep.
Our girls are part of it, and um, and we support other charities and other endeavours
Yep.
out there, and it's
That's
so
wonderful.
I probably had an opportunity to do it in other ways
Yep.
earlier than 2015. I was involved on boards and chairing things then,
Yep.
and now focusing a lot on the Zonta, our Zonta Club, but also the organisations we
And,
support, and there's many.
and Zonta means, what is it?
Yes,
Truth and respect, or what was it? Is it something like?
yeah, it's something like that. Now you've
Because
stumped
it's
me because
yeah,
it's
and because it start because I wanted to be real smart, and I did a little bit of study, then I forgot it, but because it started in
oh
1919,
yeah, yeah. It's over
in
100
Texas,
years old. Yeah,
or something, and
yeah.
it was the word's based on like the in American
An
Indian
Indian,
word or something like that, isn't
yeah,
it? Yeah, so
and so it's
truth and courage or something like that,
yeah,
isn't it? Yes.
and like Amelia Earhart was one of the early
Yes.
Zontians.
Yep. Yep.
So they're absolutely incredible group of people,
Yep.
and you don't have to be a woman
No.
to be a member of Zonta.
No.
Anyone can be a member, but the focus of our work is building a better life
Yep.
for women and girls
Yeah.
globally.
Yeah.
So we support Zonta International in its work, and that's a lot of that work. a lot of that focus at the moment is ending child marriage, um, and creating opportunities for women and girls in developing and third world countries,
Yeah, that's so great.
and for, you know, quality and opportunity,
Mm.
and working with organisations here at home in our own backyards.
Yeah.
But it's global.
Yeah.
It's like there are thousands of Zonta clubs.
Mm.
We've got heaps here in southeast Queensland, but all over Australia. But they're in every country,
Yeah.
and they just work damn hard. They're fantastic.
And like us, it might be a weird way to say it, but like you have sporting teams and that. But when you do go in and see the guys and girls or whoever's there, I suppose it's like another family. You all
Yeah.
know who's working hard, who's the treasurer, who's doing this,
Yes.
how hard everyone works. Even if
Yeah.
someone's not, treasurer, this they're still working hard. They're turning up every meeting. They're coming with whatever packages they walk and they get with their
Yep.
families. So everyone there, even if you're not, in charge, treasurer, whatever you want, is a hard worker and it takes a
That's a
community
good thing.
of it to make it.
Yep. Yep.
S- So, it comes like this other family too that you kind of get to know who they are, a little bit about their family, a bit about their personalities, and that must be just great just to get to know other people in that way as well.
It is. It is. They have become such close friends, and everybody works as hard as they possibly can,
Yeah.
within the constraints of their own personal, family, and work lives. But we all know that we're juggling so much these days, and you know, people just contribute what they can, and we welcome new members. Zonta Club of Brisbane City Heart, we welcome new members,
Yeah.
people.
Okay. We'll make sure I'll get some more information and we'll add that to a bit on the podcast and on the Facebook and even link that. Okay. So this is not a twist, but when I sat down, we talked. Of course, I known you for a long time. My wife, as you said, has known you for longer than I.
It's
Yeah, and who is a great person as well. And I said, "What's? I just want when you can start naming who someone is at the start, people can judge people very wrong, and I think that's what is happening in this world. We just judge, and we got to take away judgment. And basically, like my with me, my sight problem is if you don't see someone, it's not like you're going to judge them on their color, their look, and
Mhm.
anything. So I wanted to start this podcast off just with your name and not completely get into who you're married to, but now just to show that you grew up, you went through hardship at times, you worked hard, you had family issues, you had brothers and sisters, you you had to look after your mum, you had to look after your siblings. So you're like every other person, but your love of your life, and who you're married to is who is he?
I'm married to Campbell Newman, my darling, beloved husband. We've been married 34 years. Yeah, 34 years. Is
Okay,
he's the one who remembers dates. He remembers
okay,
how many years, all this sort of thing. I get so vague. But
okay.
yeah,
And you
34
remember
years
your
now.
hairdresser?
I
You
remember my
remember
hairdresser.
you remember
Um,
the how many years you've been seeing Karen, but not
yes,
not Campbell. Well, the hair's very important, isn't it?
it is. Yes. So
Okay.
yeah, we've been married 34 years. We were pals, really good pals for 2 years before we actually went on a date. We were
Okay.
part of a big group.
Yeah.
He was in the army. I was with a bunch of nurses. So my nursing friend,
Hmm.
one of those very close friends I was talking about before, she was dating and eventually married an army fellow. And she said, "Come on, gals." And she said to a few nurses, "Come on, gals, we're going to, uh, these army guys, they don't know Brisbane very well. We're going to take them to the Ekka and then we'll go to the underground afterwards, have a bit of a dance." And yeah, all right. So there was a big group of us, a dozen of us, six girls, six guys, and Cam was one of them. And
Okay.
we struck up a great friendship. I was coming out of a really bad relationship,
Hmm.
um, and I wasn't interested in getting into a new relationship.
It's always the
Was
way.
yes. So so we were friends for a couple of years, and he actually moved away from Brisbane in the army.
Hmm.
Um, but he was visiting all the time, and I was visiting, my friend down south and catching up with him and all this sort of thing. So anyway, a couple of years after we had first met, my very good friend who had married his army pal just basically just said, "Stop faffing around, you two. You've, we know you're both interested in each other. Just stop faffing around.
Yeah.
Make a decision. You know, start seeing each other properly." And and we did. She
Okay.
basically just sort of said, "Honestly, you two are tiptoeing around each other."
Yeah, you don't look at the truth in the mirror and
Yeah,
just yeah,
you don't want to wreck a great friendship,
yeah.
and you're just sort of there going, and she just went, "Oh,
It's
stop
stop
fucking around."
stop doing it, make the move.
Yes,
It's going to be worth
yes,
it. Mm.
just so that was when did we start? We started dating in late 1989. So we met in late 1987,
Yeah.
and we started dating late 1989. And he requested, and he wasn't even in Brisbane then.
Yeah.
He was in Sydney, so we would sort of travel to see each other. And then he requested a posting to Brisbane and moved to Brisbane in 1990 and didn't move away.
Okay. We'll go through some brief parts of his time in politics and that, but first, was obviously he came across Brisbane Lord Mayor.
Yes.
Did you have your daughters then, or that?
Yes.
Yes.
So politics was never on the cards for us.
Okay.
We never thought of politics whatsoever.
Yeah.
Cam's parents had been in politics, and Cam always said, like, he just sort of hated it back then, growing up with it around him and all that sort of stuff. And he said he wouldn't touch politics with a barge pole,
Yeah.
not with a barge pole. Anyway, when his dad passed away too young. So when his dad passed away, we were coming home from the funeral, and everyone was talking at the funeral about his dad's life of service. His
Hmm.
dad was in the army, and then he served in politics, and then he was volunteering on all sorts of different things after politics. He just had this life of service. And Cam, he was, in business at the time, very successfully in business because he'd left the army, did his MBA in financial management. He had his own company. He was doing really well. And he said, "Oh, what are they going to say about me at my funeral?" We were flying home from the funeral. He said, "I hope if I ever see an opportunity to serve again, that I have the intestinal fortitude to put my hand up and serve in some capacity. I hope I make my dad proud,
That's excellent.
and at some stage." So, and that was in 1999. His
Okay.
dad passed away. So, in go ahead a few years. So in 2002, we were at a dinner, and a family member said, um, "Oh, I hear the Liberal Party are looking for a candidate to run for Lord Mayor." And we were sitting there, and at that stage, Cam and I had been a bit upset about a few things that were happening in our community. We'd gone to community action groups and things like that regarding stuff that just wasn't and was being stuff that was being done that we were sort of thinking, what a waste of time that is, and
Mhm.
stuff that wasn't being done.
Yep.
And he was always railing against the fact that why isn't Brisbane sort of
Mm.
preparing for the future? You know, the engineer in him was sort of just saying, you know, this place is going to come to a grinding halt. I'm sick and tired of sitting in traffic unnecessarily. We've just got these bottlenecks everywhere. Anyway, so, you know, he heard that they were
Mm.
looking, we weren't even members of the party.
Okay.
They were looking for a Lord Mayoral candidate. I pricked up my ears. I saw his eyes light up a bit. And I said, babe, you could do that. And so he, to this day, because he didn't do anything but prick up his ears and light up his face, but he did not verbally say a thing because I was the one who opened my mouth and said the first words,
Yeah.
babe, you could do that. Babe, you could do that.
Yeah.
You could so do that. He says, it was my encouragement.
Okay. It's all your fault.
It's all my fault. It's all
Okay. Okay.
I encouraged him. So anyway, within oh gosh, I think within about 3 or so weeks, it was just so quick. It
Yeah.
was actually a Valentine's Day dinner.
Yep.
So we were with family members at a Valentine's dinner. And so by the March, this whirlwind had happened. So by March, he was pre-selected because no one really wanted to do it. There was no one who was sort of putting their hand up for it.
Mm.
So by the time March, he was pre-selected. We joined the party, and he was pre-selected, and it was just this roller coaster ride. Then it was 2 years of campaigning, and people just it wasn't really sort of working. And that first year, because we were working, he was busy in business. It was just this huge commitment, and his business was consulting with um, companies, agricultural and um, re, you know rural and resource companies. So he was gone Monday to Friday,
Mm.
and only had weekends to campaign. So in the end, after a year of campaigning and no one really knowing who he was, he thought, we sat down and he goes, Lise, I think I've just really got to give this my all. I said, I think you do too.
Mm.
So it was a bit of a tough decision, but he just gave up work. So he went. So for a year, he had no income, and I just went, yeah. So I was just sort of working on Wickham Terrace as a nurse, juggling the kids and the baby. They were 7 and 10.
Yep.
At the time he was pre-selected, and yeah, we just worked out our finances. It was tough, and we just had to knuckle down and scrimp a little and tighten our belts, as they say. And so he gave up work and just went full time campaigning and gave it his. He said, "I've got to give it my best shot, give it a red hot go," and lo and behold, he won.
Yeah.
Now, his dad had passed away, obviously, at that time, but his mum said, "You told me you were never going into politics.
Okay.
You said it was not for you."
And then he said, Lisa made me do it.
Yeah, he said that, but he also said, it's local government. It's not as political.
Yeah, I'm never going to go interstate.
Famous last words. Famous last words. But because it was really political.
Yes.
But he was just determined to sort of do the legacy projects that Brisbane needed, which was the tunnels, so we didn't grind to a ridiculous halt. What a lot of people don't know is that it wasn't just tunnels and roads and rubbish for Cam. It was about the social infrastructure as well. He was really passionate about
what he believed in.
yes, and you know the amenities for Brisbane. He was passionate about the environment. Plant 2 million trees. Uh, get Brisbane, all Brisbane buses. Get them all on renewables
Yeah.
and gas, and just get people on buses by air conditioning them all as well, and you know just really like his green heart city smart, like he was just really just wanting to sort of work on you know things he could do
Making
for the
Brisbane better.
environment, yeah, for
Yeah.
the environment
Environment.
here, but then also supporting the social infrastructure from the point of view of um, the communities
Yeah.
and community endeavours and the parks, and um, he brought Homeless Connect to Australia, started it in Brisbane, where he said, I'm sick and tired of report after report after report. We need outcomes. I need people to be connected to the support services that they require. We need to have tangible outcomes to the things that council are supporting. So let's get not only the people who need the help connected to the organisations that can help them, but I need these organisations to be connected to each other
Mhm.
and work together and have loads of collaboration. So he he brought Homeless Connect to Australia
Yeah.
so that would happen, and yeah, so
I
then that journey,
Yep.
and then so that was, and then I that was when I gave up full time work.
Yep.
So I only then worked part time, and I took on the Lord Mayor's Community Trust. It's now called Lord Mayor's Charitable Trust,
Mm.
LMCT. It was a bit forgotten. It was a bit sort of wound down. It was something that had been there um, for decades.
Yeah.
And it was something that, the partner of the Lord Mayor would historically have championed. And so I wanted to ramp it up and get it known again, and get the corporates in the community to start supporting it, and in that way supporting our charities and organisations that do so much fantastic
Hard
hard
work.
work out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And I suppose we're not going to go whichever side politics, but I think what people forget, you can dislike this side, like this side, dislike this side, but seriously, it still takes a lot of commitment to serve in a spot. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of it can affect the family, it affects you emotionally, but it's not as easy as people think. To stand up and take that service and to service your country, your state, whichever one it is a big commitment. There's so many people who can say, "Oh, you should do it this way. This is how you do it. You fix it. You got no idea what you do." But that's just still a sayer. If you really have to, it's the ones who have stepped up in service that
Mm.
you have to have a lot of respect for.
I I have a lot of respect for anyone who puts their hand up to public service, but to political service, because you do it. We went in very naive,
Yes.
okay, but you did have to check your life, and you just give up a personal life pretty much. But we were happy to do that because the great thing was we sort of felt like we were doing it together. That was great. Um, People don't realise, like, for us, I mean, Cam was an extremely successful young businessman prior to politics. We halved our household income when he won
Mm.
that Lord Mayoralty election. So I went part time, and he halved his income, and we just had to make that work. We really had to make that work. We had to be frugal because we had a whopping mortgage that we had had re- sort of
Prior.
relying on a higher income.
Yep.
So we just did it, you know. We had, I mean, not going to complain because it was still it's still a good income,
No, no,
but
you're right.
Cam was a whole lot more successful.
Mm.
Um, and he is now
Yeah.
again after politics.
And I think, and we'll go through a little bit, and I think it does. It's still like you said, it's not about the money, but um, like you said, you come more focused. If when he was just working for his own business, he could go out and not get noticed. He could go out and do
Yeah,
anything. But when you do take that service, you're looked at every second. You'll every word you say is looked at, and it can be, when he came premier, a word he said on his first statement as when he was in the council, or
mm-hmm.
words what he said, when he was 15 in a
Yeah,
book or assignment can go and get looked at. So it's not like just looked at for what you're doing now. You're scrutinized from the first time you spoke. So, it's not like it's only a little bit of your privacy what gets taken up, and then even your privacy in the times of being, uh, when he was Lord Mayor, then the Premier, your life gets interrupted as well and looked at and scrutinised as well. Your daughters, and people see it as one side. They can look at your family and think this is what you are, but they don't know who you are behind the doors. You're a family of a husband who wants to come home, as you say, cuddle your children, come home and spend time with your wives. I think it gets looked at so the judgment is so I don't know, taken at their own view. They don't understand behind the door. You have your own lives, your own feelings, and your own family.
mm. um, yeah, and I mean it's like I mean it's very public.
Yes.
Everything's very public. Every decision you make is out there being sort of looked over under so much scrutiny, and it was really tough for him.
Yeah.
It was very rewarding in council.
Mm.
Now, a lot of people may not know. I mean, we were only going to do a couple of terms and get out of politics. The one decision Cam made without consulting him, and it wasn't really a decision.
Yep.
It was more that it got out into the media before he had a chance to really chat to me about it. It
Yep.
was leaked to the media, unfortunately,
Yeah.
was leaving local government and
Mm.
running for state.
Okay.
I found out the day
Okay.
everybody in the community found out. It
Okay.
was in the media. And I was furious.
Okay.
We were supposed to be leaving politics
Okay.
at the end of that second term. He had everything sorted, everything was um, signed off and had been started from the point of view of the final tunnel, Legacy Way, signed up that contracts were sorted, the design, all that sort of thing. Legacy Way was sort of the last tunnel, and we'd gotten through the floods. So just it was really difficult times for Brisbane. Got through that and everything, and Cam just sort of thought he had a really good team in council, and we were going to leave politics at the end of that Lord mayoral term.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, we didn't. So I hear about running for premier, and I just thought, and
Where were you? Were you sitting in a car? Were you saw it on
no,
the TV,
I
or did he just?
was um, prepping daughter's school lunches in the kitchen,
Okay.
and so it was first thing in the morning. And he raced down into the kitchen, to give me a kiss goodbye because he was about to head off to City Hall. And he said, and honey, now look, um, you're going to hear something today. It might upset you. We'll talk about it later. I've got to go because they're here to pick me up and I'm heading off to work. But um, I'm running for state. I'm running for premier. And then he raced out the door and I was there just with sandwiches, making sandwiches and packing lunchbox, and I was just like, "You're what?" And I was just racing up the stairs, following him as he was. I said, "You're what?" And it was just like, "What's going on?" And he was just off. He's going, "We'll talk about it when I get home." I was just like, "What?" And then it was just in the media, Campbell Newman leaving
I
council
remember.
to
Yeah.
run for Lord Mayor.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and so I was glued to the news that day.
Because that was around the
Mm.
2011 floods and that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep, it was just after that. It was
Yes.
after we'd sort of, we were on the
The men,
road to
the men.
recovery.
Yep.
And anyway, so yeah, he was in the doghouse for about 3 months.
Okay.
That was a tough time for both of us. I think it was a really tough time for Cam
Yeah.
because he'd not experienced a time where we weren't a team,
Yes. Okay.
and I was just so cross. It was just like, oh, and I just I didn't want to borrow this anyway. Anyway,
Can I ask one question?
yeah.
What did you speak to your dad, and what did your dad say when he heard? Was he on kind of Campbell's side, or was he just say you just got to let it go? Well, can you remember?
Oh, with mum and dad, they were just sort of like, oh, well, it is what it is. You got, boy, this is like, okay, this is going to be quite a ride for you both.
Yep.
This is going to be a ride for you both. But mum and dad were never ones to, and neither were Cam's parents, Cam's mum. They were never ones to say, what the heck are you doing? They
Okay.
were always ones to say, okay, so you've made that decision. Right. So is there something you would like us to do?
Okay, that's great.
They were just always the big, biggest support.
Yep.
You know, I mean, my dad would be out handing out how to vote cards. You
Okay.
know, handing out how to. My mum never drove,
Yep.
and so she was a real taxi driver,
Yeah.
taxi passenger,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she would give taxi drivers Cam's pamphlets and even give them CDs. She didn't even know what a CD was,
Yeah.
what was
Okay.
on it,
Yeah.
but she would give them CDs of Cam's policies and things like that. But she would hand them Cam's pamphlets and say, my son-in-law is running for Lord Mayor, or my son-in-law is running for Premier.
Okay.
And, because she knew that taxi drivers
Yeah, and then
checked.
in them days they had their talkback radio on.
Yep.
They the ones calling in, parking
Yep.
at the taxi ranks,
Yep.
talking about
Talking about
to each
things
other
that, yep,
what needs to be done in
she
Brisbane.
was, no, and they just, yep, wow, you've made it. That's a tough decision, but let's,
Okay.
okay.
A- a-
So they're all very supportive,
And
and
how long did he stay in the doghouse for?
it was at least
3 months.
3 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and
It was tough. It was just, uh, but then I just thought, you know what, he's doing it for the right reasons because the, everything was just going, it was getting shambolic, and he just wanted to make a difference. We actually didn't think he was going to win Ashgrove.
okay,
I
yeah.
mean, that was sort of the thing that was like going to be,
The the knife
like,
edge.
well, it was like I was just sort of there thinking, oh well, he won't win Ashgrove. What we really just wanted was, he just really wanted to have an opportunity to help the team win,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, the little rotter
I,
won Ashgrove,
yes.
and yeah,
Well, one more,
didn't
but
think that was going to happen.
yeah,
Um, and that was just like, oh my god, now we're in,
yeah,
and it was not enjoyable
time.
at all.
No.
It was, yeah,
Now we can always come back to that, but
it was, but he got done,
yep,
and he worked damn hard. It was about crime. It was about the hospitals. It was about the waiting list. It was about supported housing. My God, he was just ready to ramp up. See, the first 3 years was all about let's let's sort out the schmozzle, work out exactly what needs to be done, and then the following 3 years were to be like, let's get this all sorted. He had the whole plans, everything was in place, 12 new schools, thousands of new housing, supported housing developments, and
yeah.
all this sort of thing. And it was, but they didn't quite get a chance to sort of see
So,
everything.
and I think people forget that he's not the person, or Campbell. They don't go there because, um, well, their beliefs is because their beliefs. You can be on the other side and think all your beliefs are wrong, but that person's there. Honestly, his beliefs, what was going to be best for Queensland, was what he thought was going to work. He didn't go in there with the wrong ideas or think I'm going to do this to hurt people or anything. He had a plan, what he thought, and he believed in. And I think that's got to be honored because that person, whoever it is, whichever of politics, hasn't gone in there to hurt someone on purpose or hurt a different side of the politics. Their beliefs are this is what I think is going to work. I have the passion, I have the thought, and and I think that's everyone gets blamed thinking you're wrong, but it's just their belief. It's not about being uh, you're wrong. It's this they really believe in what they're doing.
He Cam just can't see things in dysfunction
Mm,
and not try and fix it. There was just so much to be fixed, and he encouraged all his ministers and sitting members to just find out what needs to be fixed in your portfolios, and start fixing it. And it was just, I think it was just too much
yeah.
for everyone to sort of cope with. There was
Mm,
just too much change. But he just like, and Cam and I knew that there was very slim possibility of him winning Ashgrove again. It was just, that was a real blip, bit of a whirlwind, winning Ashgrove,
yeah.
because it really is, um, like a
Yeah.
Labor seat.
Area.
So we knew that he was not destined to stay
Mm,
in that seat, and he was going to be sort of, someone else would probably be, um, taking over. It was going to be hard work to keep the seat of Ashgrove. So
yeah.
you had to sort of, it had to be a situation where it's like, come on, you guys, you ministers, I'm not the dictator here. Work at it. You've got to get things done. You've got to know what has to be done, and you've got to know how to get it done, because I'm not going to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
All you others are in the safe seats. So all you others have to really learn and get things right,
Yeah. And
because you're going to be taking it forward.
yeah, and that he as you said, he already thought that, and that's what I said, and that's why I wanted to start off, like I said, the podcast kind of talking about just who you are. So as I said, people can be very judgment about who someone's last name are or what politics they are, and I just wanted to start it off just for people to let them know you both and your family are like every other family. It doesn't matter what politics it's on. You have disagree at times, what your husband's going to do, agree, back them,
Mm.
be there for them. And everyone's like that. And we're talked even, One day Campbell might even come on, and it's not about politics. That's why I'm building this podcast for people
Mm,
just to know everyone's got a story. Let's not judge people, and that's what everyone these days are saying. You don't judge genders and that. And I just want not to judge people on anything. I just want to sit down, have that talk, know someone's character, know where they come from, because everyone's got an amazing story, and there's a little, a little story in everyone what may help someone else,
mm,
or just put a smile on someone's face or bring back a memory.
mm,
And well, nearly coming to the end, but
mm.
um, as with staying on politics a little bit. So what's as you said, you got two daughters. How, for a new person out there who's a new family in politics, or who are thinking of going into it, whatever children they have, one, four, two, uh, you've been there, you've been through, local, then state,
Mm.
and still looked at, well, quite a bit, because Campbell's always still in the news now. How would you say to a young politician family, a mother, a whole family, how to, you know, look after the children, how to look after yourself with the things what are said about you, because you've been through it. What have
Mm.
you learned, and what advice would you give?
Um, I think the way to go into politics would be sort of live in the real world first, have have a have a career of some description, and set yourselves up, and then go into politics with an aim in mind. Maybe you have an area of interest that you're wanting to help. Be it, you want to go in and help the agricultural sector, or you want to go in and you want to influence from the point of view of the education system or the health system or something like that, or um, our social infrastructure. But go in, get things done, make your difference, and then get back out. Go in for don't think of it as it is going to be your full on career, because I think the thing that can sort of bring you down and stop you making the courageous decisions is if you're scared of losing your job. So I think we need people to go in and make courageous decisions, and to actually get in and reduce the impact of government in people's lives. They're so overregulated. Um, you know, have regulation where it's really, really needed, but let people live um, sort of fruitful, successful lives without sort of throwing um, so many regulations and rules and things like that on how you run a business and and all that sort of thing. I mean, you can't even put an A-frame on the footpath without sort of permits and regulations and all this sort of thing. Sort of um, taken away, I suppose, a lot of that exciting entrepreneurship
Mhm.
that that we've had. But and then jug just from your personal lives. I've always said, and Cam has always said to people that sort of worked with him and everything, is like, we will juggle everything in our lives except our kids. So I said, I will, work flat out. I will go here, there, and everywhere. But I'm not doing that to my kids, and I need to be there for them. So, you know, and we didn't really expose them um, prolifically out there. People didn't even know who their parents were when they were at uni.
Yeah.
you know, they didn't know who their parents were, except their very close friends
Yeah.
who they felt safe bringing home.
Yeah.
All that sort of thing. You know, we just, but we would always make sure that, you know, we'd be the parents, seeing them perform on stage at a concert, or, you know, make sure that they were able to sort of do the things that were important for them, and have those times curled up on the couch chatting.
Yeah.
You got to be connected to them. So you can't just, you know, give them 5 minutes. So
Okay.
you have to sort of be there. And so I would be, you know, quite involved in even Cam's diet as
Mm,
well.
okay. And a couple,
Make sure he's home
yeah,
at
for the
least to see the
kids, no,
kids
a
at
couple other,
certain time.
a couple other ones for yourself.
Mm.
People can be very cruel to females in some ways, books,
Yes.
papers, and anyone. It's as I said, I'm not going on any side of politics or whatever. That's I don't want to
Yes.
do that here. But it can be not harder for women, but the words can be more scandalous if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
What can be said, or a young female out there who it happens to, and this could help anyone, even
Yeah.
young girls at school these days,
Yeah.
women in politicians, wives, anything. I mean, from the first time when it happened to you, it must have been hard. But what would you say to him if someone was, say the Lisa back then, what when it first happened, and now you could talk to that Lisa now? What would you say to her, how to handle it?
I think this um, goes to a lot of the situations in life at the moment with social media, particularly.
Mhm,
Don't read the comments.
mm,
So if there's something written about you in the paper, or I didn't like profile pieces at all.
mhm,
The only time I ever allowed anyone to sort of come in and do a profile piece on me was at election time. They sort of they just kept the media would just keep pushing and pushing, wanting profile of the couple.
yeah,
I said, he's the one who's the elected representative. Focus on him. Um, and if I was in the media, I would only ever want to talk about the charities that I was working with or helping.
mm,
Um, but whenever there was something in the paper that was sort of, close to a profile piece or anything like that, never read the comments.
okay,
It's like, especially, social media and stuff now, even now, um, Cam and I, we will, he particularly, I say, yes, you can make a tweet or a comment, or you come out and give an opinion on something because someone has asked you and has particularly pursued you to get your comment on something. Fine, say it, move on. You said what you believe. That's, people can take it or leave it, but don't sit there poring over the
and
comments
stew on it.
and stew on it. So we made a point of not looking at the comments, or trying not to.
Mm,
Anytime we looked at the comments, it was soul destroying. And you're
yeah,
just there going, oh my God.
yeah,
Someone says, uh, like, I've got lizard eyes. And
yes,
I was just going, what's wrong with my eyes?
yeah,
What are they talking about as being lizard eyes?
yeah, yeah,
And, all this sort of thing. You just never read the comments. And I think that would be quite healthy in a lot of situations on social media as well.
yeah,
Don't live for the comments. If you're going to share something that you find exciting or you find important, don't do it with an aim that you 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 wanting to hear what other people think of
can
it,
I say,
and other people think of you.
yeah,
Have confidence in yourself, but yeah, that was really,
Just
and you just treat home like a haven.
yeah,
Come in your front door and just shed it, leave it all outside.
yeah. And I believe in that and getting close to the end. And I
Yeah.
would say I call my wife like the heart of the house and on the strength. If anything needs
Mm.
building, fixing up,
Mm.
lifting this, I do all that. But I really believe, I suppose when talk about different things, but I feel like that's how you are too. The wife can be the heart of the house. The men can be a bit, oh, I don't want to do a family thing or this or that. And the wives are the ones who, put that extra little bit into Christmas, make sure the wrapping
Yeah.
paper's done, and that's why I call Karen the heart of the house, and then you have the strength. But maybe you can say, the muscle strength on the other side to do all the other thing. And I think, which, we'll say whichever genders you are these days together, I think you need yin and yang to be together to
Yeah.
make it work. And that's how that family structure works. And as you said, when Campbell comes home, he's had a bad day. You're there
Mm.
for him, and he can feel it for you.
Mm.
And I think that, just that yin and yang, sorry, and having that strength of a strong family, you know, uh, helps that too, whatever gets said to you. If
Yeah.
you got that partner there who backs you,
Mm.
someone's going to be there for you on the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Um, Two more questions, and then I might even do one more piece of paper. We're going a bit longer, so I hope you haven't. As you said, you only allowed that time that media come in. So I'm very honoured that you sat down with me and allowed me to go this personal into some of the stuff with you. I'm gonna give you one more piece of paper soon, but question one: if anyone that you would famous and anyone famous in the world that you would like to hear me talk to, who do you think this kind of podcast that you would like to sit back and listen?
Oh, see, I'm of the opinion that there's heaps of famous people out there that I would not like to listen to.
Yep,
I actually like to listen to and hear from the inspiring, quiet achievers.
yep,
And I think we have an enormous amount of them, and they are out there at the forefront of a lot of our outreach organisations.
okay,
So I'd love to hear from the people who are making making a real difference
difference.
in
Okay,
our community, one person at.
oh, that's great. And someone personal, close to you, a friend, family, who would you like to hear as well? Do you think this format would suit?
Oh,
I know that's a similar question, but it's a little bit of someone close to you, personal, best friend, someone who worked with you in an organization you think you would just, you think,
I actually think it would be lovely to hear from the more senior citizens
mhm,
about their memories of simpler times, but how you know how people um, gauged success back then, because I think we've lost sight of what a meaningful success is in life,
yeah,
and I I think we have um, too much focus on the things you the the things you own, and the um, you know um, you know what's in your house, how many bathrooms, blah 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 blah,
yep,
that sort of thing. Cars, you run around quite hectically, trying to reach these successes,
yeah,
um, and I think we can learn a lot from what what our previous couple of generations classed as success.
okay, I think that's great. If you know anyone like that,
I will
you that,
certainly let you know.
okay, last two,
Okay,
do you want top or bottom?
I'm going bottom.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, bottom question. Oh. What smell instantly takes you back somewhere? I mentioned it before.
Yeah.
When I'm walking along the streets, I love it when I actually chance upon a low fence. When you're taking your dog for a walk, I love when someone's got a low fence and flowers at the front. And I always like to just stop and smell, particularly their roses, and I close my eyes and I'm back in grade one and grade two, walking home from school,
Mm.
smelling everybody's roses as I wait for my bicky,
Okay.
my afternoon
You've
bicky
great.
with the neighbours.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want to say thanks. I want to say thanks to you for, serving as well. You served as with Campbell as well, so you should be respected for serving as that as well.
oh,
Serving
thanks,
serving
Alan.
as a nurse and a mother and a daughter and everything. So I want to say, we have to thanks to everyone for whichever kind of service they do. So I want to thank you for your time and service. You have to be respected for that as well. And again, I really respect that you could sit down with me, and I hope how I'm trying to structure this format that you enjoyed it today. And we may have you back again one day to go into some more stuff, and especially into the charity stuff.
That'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank
thanks,
you.
Lisa, for joining us.
Pleasure.